Good evening. I'm Spot On Weather meteorologist Matthew Euler. Welcome to my latest video, my latest forecast update. I'll cover the overview here in a moment. Hope everybody's having a great evening. By the way, this picture here to start tonight's presentation was of an amazing sunset in the Hampton Roads, Virginia cities. This occurred back on, let's see, I gotta go back a week ago from tomorrow. So that would be the 7th, Thursday the 7th of February 2023. This was just an amazing sunset. And what happened was, we're looking west here in this image. We had the sun, the light of the sun, just illuminating the underside of these mid-level alto cumulus clouds. And these clouds usually reside at 10,000 to 20,000 feet above the surface in the mid-latitudes here. And it was just an absolute gorgeous sunset. I couldn't believe it. It's always nice to keep your eye to the sky, not only for weather changes, but just for the beauty of nature. All right, so let's take a look at this evening's presentation. My overview, we'll take a look at the stratospheric polar vortex, the latest and greatest on that. We'll take a look at the quasi-biennial oscillation latest, the sea surface temperature anomalies, where they stand now, including the various Nino regions. The teleconnections update, including the PNA, the NAO, AO, EPO, and MJO. So kind of see where we're at on these now, as well as a new item of interest this week in this particular video itself, the Pacific jet stream. So we'll take a look at that and kind of see what that's up to and how it can impact our weather. Additionally, we'll look at some modeling and then final thoughts. Let's start things off this evening with a look at the latest stratospheric polar vortex forecast. All right, so let me go to my little laser pointer here. So looking at the Zach D. Lawrence product here on stratobserve.com, this is the zonal mean zonal winds up at 10 hectopascals at the 10 millibar level, way high up in the atmosphere, and at about 60 degrees north latitude. So to read this graphic here by Zach D. Lawrence, whenever you see these, now each of these color lines, by the way, represents a different model. It kind of shows you how the models were very much in agreement up into the present time. And over time, it kind of shows you how the models diverge, which we'd expect that with the further out in time we go. Specifically, when we're talking about, confidence levels, the models usually do a poor job further out you get in time. There's going to be some range of uncertainty, right, or lower confidence levels the further out you get in the forecast period. So really what we're looking at here, we're sitting right now on the 13th, where this white dashed vertical line is, 13th of December, and you kind of see we've been in a steady state of the zonal mean zonal wind speeds, generally maintaining their about 30 meters per second speeds. And over time, what we're expecting is a slight weakening of these zonal mean zonal wind speeds, and then a more dramatic drop-off. And most of the models agree with this further weakening of the stratospheric polar vortex between the 20th and Christmas Day, the 25th of December. And then there's a lot of divergence here out in the future in late December, that last week of December. The orange line here represents the GFS model. It's showing a much greater weakening of the stratospheric polar vortex. The other three models here, represented by the green, the violet, and the light blue line, are kind of a little bit more steady with the strength of these zonal mean zonal winds. So overall, we are expecting a slight weakening of the zonal mean zonal winds, deceleration of these winds, indicating a weakening polar vortex in the stratosphere. If we look at the graphics here on the right, courtesy of Net Weather TV, these white solid lines in both of these graphics on the right represent height contours, or certain levels of heights in the upper atmosphere. And whenever you see these white solid lines kind of stretched out or elongated like this here in the top right image, that's an association with a stretched stratospheric polar vortex situation. Now this upper right hand graphic is basically the forecast for the 19th of December. So this would be next Tuesday, showing a stretching of the stratospheric polar vortex into eastern portions of North America, right on down to New England. We also see some stretching in the opposite direction, basically towards the European sector. Bottom right graphic represents the forecast and this is for Christmas Day itself, the 25th of December. So look what's happened between the 19th of December here in the upper right and the bottom right here, the 25th of December, Christmas Day. You can see that the vortex, the blue shading here, the cooler than normal temps there in the stratosphere have pivoted towards, the vortex has pivoted towards Europe by the 25th of December. Now this is per the latest model guidance today on the 13th of December at the 12 Zulu run. Okay, now this is definitely subject to change, and it changes regularly. Both of these, both the graphic here on the left with the zonal mean zonal winds, as well as these hemispheric plots showing the polar vortex. We look at the latest update on the quasi-biennial oscillation QBO. So there's two phases to the QBO. There's a westerly phase in which the winds above, or in the stratosphere above the equator blow from the west, and then there's an easterly phase of the QBO in which the stratospheric winds blow from the easterly direction. So this is the latest radio sound observation. We abbreviate it RAOB from Singapore. It's a cool place, by the way, Singapore. I've been there myself. It's a really cool place to go visit. But if you look at this was December 12th, 2023. So this is the latest data I could pull. And this was yesterday. But look at the solid blue line and how far to the left of this vertical gray line it is. So we're in negative values whenever this blue line is to the left of this solid vertical line here in the middle. That means we have an easterly phase or a negative value component to the QBO. So right now we're sitting at minus 19.80 for the QBO value, and you kind of see, again, I mentioned this last Friday in my video, previous El Nino winters, just looking at the comparisons, the 2009-10 winter season as well as 2015-16 winter season, both El Nino winters, two different complete animals here. 09-10 had a strongly negative AO-NAO. We had easterly QBO in 09-10, whereas 15-16 we had a positive QBO or a westerly phase QBO and a much stronger polar vortex situation with a westerly phase QBO. So here's the ranges as compared to the current value. By the way, why do we care about these phases of the QBO? Dunkerton had actually done some research stating how the easterly phase of the QBO generally tends to lead to a weaker stratospheric polar vortex. Now, why do we care if we have a weaker stratospheric polar vortex? That basically means that our likelihood or probability of getting colder than normal temperatures to descend from the Arctic into the United States is greater, or it's in the mid latitudes in general, could be Europe, whenever we have this weaker stratospheric polar vortex. So easterly QBO associated with weaker stratospheric polar vortex as conducted by research from Dunkerton, and then also with the stratospheric polar vortex being weaker, we tend to have colder winters across the mid-latitudes, and that's why we care. Looking at these QBO values, whenever they're in the range of negative 15 to negative 20 in the months of December, January, and February, these are the temperature anomalies. Now, this is a little bit older data here. This is NCEP NCAR reanalysis. This is surface air temperature anomalies in degrees Celsius, okay? These are not in degrees Fahrenheit. But you see the purple coloring here, the violets, the blues generally indicate below normal temperatures, okay? Whenever you have QBO values of negative 15 and negative 20 in December, January, and February, and it's mainly focused on the Midwest to the East Coast. If we look at the latest sea surface temperature anomalies across the global realm, you'll notice that we have the El Nino signature still showing up. Warmer than normal water temperatures in the orange coloring, colder than normal water temperatures in the blue coloring. And so if we just look at the Pacific alone, let's just take a look at the Pacific first, okay? We see that we have anomalously warmer than normal waters off the west coast of South America, stretching westward to around, just beyond the date line there, the equatorial Pacific. This signature is in association with your El Nino, which we're currently undergoing right now, or in the process of. And then we have much above normal water temperatures across the northwestern Pacific as well, which this has really remained in place for quite some time. Slightly warmer than normal waters off the U.S. West Coast, and slightly below normal waters into the Gulf of Alaska, spreading a little bit further southward, generally across the northeastern Pacific. Interesting things going on the North Atlantic side. First of all, we have above normal water temperatures in association with a positive AMO south of Greenland. We also have below normal blue shading here from Labrador, working our way Newfoundland, all the way down into the mid-Atlantic off the coast. We're seeing blue coloring, and that's below normal water temperatures. We also have below normal waters generally southeast of Hawaii, and those have remained in place for quite some time, for months. So really interesting things. We look at the Indian Ocean, another area where we look at warmer or colder temperature anomalies with a little bit more interest, especially in the winter. We have warmer than normal water temperatures across the western Indian Ocean and slightly cooler than normal waters across the eastern Indian Ocean, associated with a positive Indian Ocean dipole. Let's take a look now at the Nino regions, the latest update as of today, 13 December 2023. And we'll start with the Nino 1+2 index here, the Nino 1+2 index. Look at the blue line here representing the sea surface temperature anomalies based on, now this climatology data set for CDAS goes back between 81 and 2010. This is courtesy of Levi Cowan at tropicaltidbits.com, but you get the ideas here, okay? So Nino 1+2 index, at one point in time, this oceanic Nino index was well above 2 degrees Celsius above normal in September. And over time, look at the drop we've seen. We're now down to positive 1.04 degrees Celsius for the Nino 1+2 region. If we look at the CDAS Nino 3 index over here, the bottom right, showing a value of plus 1.557 degrees Celsius. And so you kind of see a leveling off of this particular value of CDAS Nino 3. Excuse me for one moment as I interrupt this regularly scheduled program. All right, I am back, and sometimes if you're a pet owner, you understand why you sometimes have breaks. And that was a case where I was checking on my dog who is whining. Anyway, so let's keep going here. So CDAS at 1.55 degrees Celsius above normal. Then the Nino 3.4 region, we're looking at generally plus 1.39 degrees Celsius above normal in the Nino 3.4. Fairly level off since mid to late November. You notice this blue line is fairly constantly straight, pretty much leveled off. If we look at the Nino 4 index here at the bottom right, we have a value of plus 1.10 degrees Celsius. So, and I represent these values, or these Nino regions, generally here on this diagram, here in the upper right-hand portion of the slide. So kind of looking at all these, right? I talked about the importance last video of where are the greatest sea surface temperature anomalies set up across the Pacific. And here are the various regions. So you can see Nino 1+2 is immediately right off the west coast of South America. Nino 3 is just to the west of that. And then you combine Nino 3 with Nino 4, and you get a Nino 3.4 region. And then you get a Nino 4 over here. So right now, at all the regions, where are the greatest sea surface temperature anomalies situated? They are currently situated in Nino 3 region, so right in this location, still in the eastern equatorial Pacific. Now let's take a look and examine the latest Teleconnections forecast. And we'll start with the PNA. This is the European EPS PNA 50 per term member forecast. This one goes out right to the 28th of December, just beyond the Christmas holiday. Whenever you see the green solid line, that represents the average of all the ensemble forecast members, the 50 of them. And so initially we start off on the positive side of things today, on the 13th of December, positive PNA. That dips closer to the neutral line between the 15th and the 17th of December before climbing again to the positive territory. Now, I really want you to pay attention. I'm going to draw this up here, kind of circle some things to really point things out for you. This right here, okay, this period between 22 and 27 December, I've been watching this period closely because to me, it seems like the tendencies or the trends are for this PNA to get more strongly positive. And why does that matter when we have a positive PNA? Positive PNA is going to be associated with higher than normal upper level heights and above normal temperatures, upper level ridging out in the western portions of North America. And so what you have happen whenever you get a positive across the western portions of North America, your jet stream takes on more of a ridge configuration over that location, and then it has troughing or a minus height anomaly further downstream from this positive PNA situation. So usually the positive PNA, warmth, dryness, ridging out in the western portion of North America, troughing, cooler temps, and more unsettled in the eastern U.S. So that's why we pay attention to it. We look at the European EPS PNA, 50 perturbed members. This is a 46-day forecast. Now this one goes all the way out to 26 January. Okay, so if you notice, we're positive today on the PNA. Okay, we're weekly positive. We're heading down to neutral conditions here, generally from about the 16th through the 21st, 22nd of December. And then we climb more strongly positive again per this model. And we remain positive all the way up to about the 8th or 9th of January. A slight dip to the negative territory here, but it's not that big of a drop to negative side. And then we go slightly positive again from mid-January to late January. We look at the overall NOAA Jeffs V12 PNA forecast, 30 perturbed members, pretty much in line with the other two models I showed you. Positive to start, neutral conditions right in this location, 14 to 17 December, slightly positive again, and then way more strongly positive here towards Christmas holiday. Now let's take a look at the North Atlantic Oscillation, the NAO forecast. This is the European EPS NAO 50 perturbed member forecast. This one goes out to 28 December, so just right after the Christmas holiday. And this NAO is strongly positive, okay? This is not a good trend if you want some kind of colder conditions in the eastern U.S., okay? And I'll show you the El Nino and NAO combination here when it's positive after I show these next three slides. But this right here, folks, is what I like to call a mild signal. Whenever the NAO is positive like this is a mild signal for the eastern U.S. And eventually over time, you kind of see back around the 26th of January, the NAO kind of works its way closer to neutral. It's not nearly as strongly positive, which is a good thing, but this is just a positive situation, and this is a lot of mild temperatures in the east normally. Whenever you get a European EPS NAO 50 perturbed member, whenever you get this condition, strongly positive again, and the NAO here from the 11th right on through, 23rd, I'd say, right here of December, strongly positive NAO. Again, that represents mild conditions. Eventually, you see a trend going towards more negative or neutral conditions by the time we get to 11 January into mid-January itself. So there's some hope, winter weather fans out there. Although we might be positive now with the NAO and lack that North Atlantic blocking, over time we could see that drop back to the negative side in January and make things a little bit more colder, potentially with an energized subtropical jet, get some storm activity along the southeast and mid-Atlantic coast with the cold air. Looking at the NOAA Jeffs V12 NAO 30 perturbed member forecast, again, strongly positive NAO to start things off all the way, to the 23rd of December, and then conditions become a little bit closer to neutral here towards the end of the model run, the Christmas holiday to the 29th of December. Now, what happens when we combine a El Nino in the winter? This is, by the way, courtesy of NOAA, this graphic. What happens when you combine an El Nino, okay, and an NAO together, okay? Let's first start with just an El Nino alone here in this first graphic. All right, so typically what you get in El Nino winter, you get lower than normal heights along the Gulf Coast right up towards the Mid-Atlantic, and you get a lot of positive heights over the top of the negative heights, so a lot of positive heights across Canada. And just if we just look at El Nino alone, all the analogs for El Nino show this. Now, what happens when we take the El Nino and combine a negative NAO with the El Nino during the winter? Much below normal heights across the southeast and mid-Atlantic. Much above normal heights, positives over the top across eastern Canada. So you have a positive height anomaly over a negative height anomaly. So this is going to be more indicative of storminess and colder conditions across the southeast and mid-Atlantic. In other words, El Nino and a negative NAO together, that's going to favor more wintry weather from the Gulf Coast up to the mid-Atlantic. What happens now if we take that same El Nino and combine it with a positive NAO? What happened here? A lot of maroonish red orange coloring here. Oh boy, not much blue in the southeast and the mid-Atlantic, is there? So things have changed drastically between an El Nino negative NAO situation and an El Nino positive NAO situation. You're getting a lot more positives. It's a very mild look for the United States, specifically the northern U.S., and it's also very warm for Europe over here, okay, on the far right portion of the screen. I mean, look at Europe over here in the middle, this middle graphic here. Wow, look at that blue coloring, negatives all across Western and Central Europe with a negative NAO and El Nino together. So real interesting stuff, how these teleconnections can combine and produce these kind of results per the analogs. Let's take a look at the AO forecast. This is the European EPS 50 per term member forecast. This is as of the 000 on 13 December. Okay, we're positive on the AO. We stay, wow, strongly positive on the AO by the time we get to the 20th and 22nd. And then we finally see the green line starting to trend more towards neutral by the 28th. We look at the ECMWF EPS AO 50 per term member forecast going all the way out to 26 January. Wow, we have got ourselves a strongly positive AO. Not good, winter weather fans in the eastern U.S. Not good at all. And you know, maybe we reach this nice point here around the 10th of January through 26 January where we get this thing to go negative again. But right now, this is not a good sign, okay? If you like winter weather in the east. If you look at the NOAA JEFS V12 AO 30 per term member forecast, again, positive AO, not good. I don't like this. And very strongly positive, in fact, between the 19th and 22nd for the JEFS V12, before finally potentially going towards more negative territory at the end of December. The Eastern Pacific Oscillation. Okay, let's take a look at that forecast. European EPS EPO 50 per term member forecast going out to 28 December after your Christmas holiday. We're starting off positive with EPO. Okay, so what would a positive EPO mean? Okay. That would be a case where we have a low pressure system in the Gulf of Alaska, the Northeast Pacific, basically positioned over high pressure. And this is going to result in, you know, a lot of southerly flow pumping up into Western North America. But it's also going to result in milder temperatures in general across the U.S. with a positive EPO. Now, we do see the EPO temporarily transition to negative, basically between the 15th and then the 20th. And then it goes neutral for a bit here between the 20th and Christmas Eve, the 24th, before we're going positive again. So the EPO is also a major player that we look at in determining, you know, what's going on across the Northeast Pacific. If we have a negative EPO, for example, okay, we have the opposite of what we normally would have. We don't have the low in the Gulf of Alaska. Instead, we have a huge ridge or high pressure over an area of lower pressure, okay? And that's going to impact the weather downstream over here for the U.S. Let's now look at the EPO forecast. This is the 50 per term member forecast out to 26 January for the EPO, showing a positive phase. Not good, weather fans, winter weather fans, not good at all. When we get a positive phase over here, up in here, we got a positive phase there, we got a dip to negative there, and then we go strongly positive again. This would not be good. Well, at least through the end of December, it wouldn't be good. And then potentially we go to neutral to slightly below or negative for the EPO. And finally, the NOAA JEFS V12 EPO 30 per term member forecast showing, let me find where my cursor is out here, positive to start right now, dropping negative between the 15th and the 19th, and then neutral through the 23rd before going positive again. Now let's take a look and examine our latest Teleconnections update or forecast. Let's take a look at this. So JEFS V12 forecast as of today, 13 December 2023. Okay, so we're situated in the null phase right now. We're right in here in the center small circle portion of the MJO diagram, which basically means that the MJO is going to have very minimal impacts on U.S. weather right now. The forecast is this blue line, 23rd, 25th, 27th. We're getting close to the border between phases 8 and 1. Why is that important? Because phases 8 and 1 in the month of December and even into January is going to favor colder than normal temperatures across the eastern U.S. If we can get to these phases here, these sectors 8 and 1 here, where we have convection focused across Western Hemisphere and Africa. Now, over here on the right is the forecast from the European model. And let's see, let's just look at the lines here. So right now, we're about right in this position here, coming into the null phase for the European model. This blue line is the forecast, coming out 25th towards phase 8, 27th weekly into phase 8 for the European model. So this is a good sign that this MJO is working to the colder side of the diagram here. Colder side for eastern temps. Now, another character has presented itself. This character is well known in meteorology, and it's called the Pacific jet stream. All right, now, last winter, this was the villain. Okay, let's face it. We had a really good cold snap around the holidays, around Christmas. Frigid air just poured into the east. And as fast as that frigid air came in, the Pacific jet ramped up. These wind speeds just kicked it up. And we had a nice fetch of west to east jet stream winds from the Pacific into the U.S. and resulted in a very mild January this past winter in January 2023. What do we have for the forecast right now? Okay, we're going to look at the JEFs on the left, and we're going to look at the forecast for the jet stream winds on the right per the EPS. You notice this red coloring here, okay, and these orange colors in the Pacific in both models, right? It's showing up. This is the forecast, by the way, is for the 26th of December. This is showing a very strong Pacific jet stream, okay? The only reason it looks like it's actually bending from northwest to southeast on these graphics, on these model graphics, is because this is a two-dimensional surface, and we're looking at a three-dimensional globe here. It's the best projection that we could present, but this jet stream is pretty much west to east. And so I'm keeping a close eye on this. Everybody's been tweeting about this. Everybody's been posting about this, saying, winter is over if you live anywhere in the U.S. I don't agree with that. Number one, I think we're overreacting, right? And I'm guilty of it too when I want snow and cold in the east myself. But look, guys, we are in December, okay? We're not at the end of winter. We're not in February. We got plenty of time on the clock. If I'm a sports team and I'm looking at the clock right now, I'm looking up at the scoreboard, I'm saying to myself, you know what? I might be down right now in this game. I might be losing. But I look at that clock right now and it tells me I still have 30 minutes left in the game, okay? So what I'm saying is, yes, there's a good possibility this stronger Pacific jet can make milder conditions across the U.S. for periods of time. I don't see a full torch, though, in the east, and I'll explain more about that in a minute. I also want you to pay attention to these orange colors down here in Texas, the Gulf Coast. That's real interesting. That's a very strong subtropical jet showing up. And that's exactly what we'd expect during El Nino winter. One other thing I want to mention, despite the, we got a lot of time on the clock in winter. I'm not panicking on this, okay? Look at this. There's lots of uncertainty, and I put the bullet right here. Whenever you're dealing with 306 hours out into the future, when you're trying to project an atmospheric feature or some kind of synoptic situation, it's going to change. It looks solid. It's impressive agreement right now between the models, JEFs and EPS, but does not necessarily mean this jet stream is going to maintain this intensity as it flows towards California. It very well could weaken between now and then. There's a lot of time to watch this evolution, okay? So I will emphasize there's lots of uncertainty here this far out in time regarding the strength and orientation of the specific jet. It's very strong, yes. You kind of see the legends, by the way, over here on the far right of each of these graphics. So we're looking at, 144, almost 144 knot winds blowing through this specific jet. But again, it's not really looking like a torch across the eastern U.S. Let me show you an example. This is the forecast temperatures from the GFS on the left and the European model on the right. The two deterministic models for Norfolk, Virginia. This is based on the 12Z, the midday model run today for both models, 13 December 2023. Look at these temperatures, okay? Does this look torch-like to you? I mean, I know the normal high in Norfolk is about 55 degrees right now. Okay, so slightly below normal, moderately below normal. All right, look at the consistency of the cooler temps is what I'm getting at. This does not look like hey, Pacific Jet's just going to dominate. Game over. Another factor is we're not in a La Nina, folks. We're not in La Nina this year. Okay, a La Nina is going to favor the ridge, southeast ridge, to dominate the southeast of Mid-Atlantic with unusually warm temperatures in the winter. We have an El Nino this winter, and we also have an easterly QBO, which is playing a major role in the stratospheric weakening, the stratospheric polar vortex weakening. Right, this was the GFS run from midday today. It does not look like a torch to me. This is the European model. Does that look like a torch to you? Highs in the 40s? Lows in the 30s? Definitely not for Hampton Road cities. And by the way, up here, these temperatures, this temporary rise or climate temperatures is due to the storm system that'll be coming in. So let me kind of transition over to the storm now. We are looking at a pretty significant storm from the southeast up through the mid-Atlantic and even up towards New England for Sunday the 17th of December and Monday the 18th of December. Showing you now the Jeff's V12 here on the left. We got a nice little negative tilt to this 500 millibar trough. It's more neutral over here on the right. Let me get my... So the trough axis is more neutral across Florida over here on the right with the EPS model. The Jeff's model is more negatively tilted. But regardless, this green coloring here around Florida, that is your stronger storm signal with low pressure across that part of the U.S. And that low pressure system is going to work its way up towards the mid-Atlantic Sunday into Monday, the 17th to 18th of December. This is going to create a lot of wind. It's going to create a lot of precipitation. 1 to 3 inches of rain is possible in a large swath of the southeast and mid-Atlantic coasts. Here are some of the models from today's midday runs. This was a GFS model. You see a 992 millibar low situated over South Carolina. And this is overnight Sunday night, the 17th, coming up this Sunday night. We move over here on the right. This is where it's at on Monday morning, the 18th of December. It's a 992 millibar low maintaining its intensity over North Carolina. And then you see here in the center here, the bottom center, we now have like a 991 millibar low pressure system over Hampton Roads, Virginia. So the GFS is taking a more inland track with this system from the Carolinas to southeast Virginia. The biggest impacts are going to be the strong gusty winds and also along with 1 to 3 inch rain totals for a large portion of the southeast and mid-Atlantic coasts. Now, let's take a look at the Canadian model from midday today. It's got more of a coastal look. Right, each of these 3 images here, same time period. So this is Sunday night, overnight on the left. This is Monday morning here on the upper right. And then this, the center one here at the bottom is Monday afternoon, right here. Okay, so bottom line here is we have an intense cyclone, sub 990 millibar low pressure, pretty intense. With time, it moves just along the coast and parallel to the coast up just off of New Jersey by Monday afternoon, the 18th of December. Lots of rain for New England, lots of wind for New England. The track of the system is really going to dictate who gets the heaviest amounts of rain, but it is going to have an influence on your weather, on your plans. If you got any plans, any time from Sunday and Monday, this upcoming Sunday and Monday, any kind of holiday outdoor plans specifically. Now, if we look at the European model midday run, it is more in line with the GFS track. So this is going to be Sunday evening in the upper left. Upper right, we have overnight Sunday night. And then bottom center, we have Monday morning the 18th. So bottom line here, we got an intense cyclone, 990 millibars, 987 millibars, and 982 millibars with a general track inland across the Carolinas and central Virginia. Just a large swath of eastern seaboard is going to be covered with rain and wind with this. Looking at the longer range now, Jeff's forecast modeling. This is for the 22nd of December here. Let me go back to my pointer. This graphic here on the left of Jeff's forecast is for the 22nd of December, 2023. This is not looking good if you want winter weather. Are you dreaming of a white Christmas? Oh boy. I hate to be the bearer of bad news here, but this is just really warm. You see the higher than normal heights, and usually with higher than normal heights, we have milder than normal temperatures. Now, I can really see the upper Midwest, central and western Canada really bearing the brunt of the warmest temperature anomalies. Again, right along the East Coast, I'm not looking at a torch situation at all. By the time we get over here on the right, this is the forecast for Christmas Day itself, 25 December. we're starting to weaken some of these height anomalies to where it's not as broad. This is interesting though, okay? Let me draw this out for you. We're starting to get, with this run here, with this graphic here on the right, the forecast from Jeff's, we're starting to get a ridge to build now across Western Canada and up to the Northwest Territories, okay? And so that's going to be associated with a positive PNA that's developing around Christmas Day. We got a deep area of low pressure associated with the Aleutian low, and what that circulation around this low pressure is going to pump up the southerly winds, increase the southerly winds, and then pump up these heights ahead of it. Downstream of this anomalous high height center across northern or western North America, we're going to have troughing going down toward Hudson Bay as well as extending down to the central U.S. So a positive PNA pattern emerges here on Christmas Day per Jeff's model. But we do have to still deal with that positive EPO, which is not a good thing. If we look at the Jeff's forecast continuing, now on the graphic here on the left, I'm showing you the 27th of December. This Aleutian low pressure system is a monster. It's a beast, okay? And now that ridge axis by the 27th of December has slid a little further to the east into central Canada. But now look at the blue coloring, right? From the west coast, California along the Gulf Coast, Florida up to the mid-Atlantic. This is storm signals here, okay? Whenever you see this blue coloring, that's lower than normal height anomalies. Now, will we have enough cold air? Way too early to tell. It's not looking good right now, but of course things can change. If we look at the graphic here on the right, this is the Jeff's forecast for 28 December. Now we have the highest height center over Hudson Bay, Canada. We have the ridge. It's still there, but it's not as strong. So we do have some multiple ridging going on here. Overall, we got lower than normal heights from the southern U.S. up to the mid-Atlantic, and we still have that Aleutian low and beast mode out there in the Northeast Pacific. Now on to the European ensemble forecast, EPS, showing you the 22nd of December. This is a mild look, folks. Mild look. So a lot of anomalously above normal heights. Again, I don't see this is going to be a complete East Coast torch fest. The warmest temperatures are going to be across the Midwest, Northern Plains, up to central Canada. Graphic here on the right shows the forecast for the 25th of December, Christmas, per the EPS. A nice deep trough across the Northeast Pacific. And we got that ridging again showing up as well on EPS. And downstream of that ridging, we should be getting a little more troughing. Now, the modeling really isn't picking up much on lower than normal heights along the eastern seaboard, but I would not be surprised if that doesn't change. Looking at the forecast EPS now out to 27 December, similar situation as Jeff's. Very strong Aleutian low. We have that ridging poking itself up across the Northwest Territories, Western Canada, downstream troughing. And we're starting to get more of that storm signal again along the southern U.S., Southern California. This is what we'd expect during El Nino winter, and we're starting to see some signs of that. And then finally, the graphic here on the right is the EPS forecast for 28 December. The Aleutian low starts to weaken a little bit more, thankfully, for us in the east. And we have that ridging still occurring, higher than normal heights across western North America, a little bit of troughing downstream, and our storm signal is from the Gulf Coast up through the mid-Atlantic by the 28th of December. Okay, so taking into account everything I've shown you, here are my final thoughts on today's forecast update for 13 December 2023. First of all, the Pacific jet stream, it's definitely looking like it's going to be a factor in our weather. Milder temperatures possible in association with it. I don't necessarily know if those really, really mild temperatures or above normal temps are actually going to make it all the way to the East Coast. I've watched these models like a hawk the last 2 days, and it does not appear that way to me. We have a stretching stratospheric polar vortex, in my opinion, early next week. And I think the two influences, the Pacific jet stream along with that stretched out stratospheric polar vortex in eastern North America, are kind of battling it out. The stretch vortex represents colder temps versus the Pacific jet milder temps. So the stretch vortex, even though it'll be a temporarily 2 to 3 day period next week, it could be enough to really, really offset the effects of the Pacific jet, at least in the short term next week. Teleconnections, AO and NAO, ooh, they're ugly. If you want eastern winter weather, just not looking good right now. Strongly positive. projected potentially to go closer to neutral and slightly negative, maybe drop negative towards the early part of January. So right now, these AO and NAO positive teleconnections favor milder temps. EPO is in the same boat here. I could have added it. That's also favoring milder temps across the eastern U.S. The only good thing we have on our side is that positive PNA potential. Watch the trends, though. The Pacific Jet, to me, may not quite make it all the way to the West Coast, first of all. Second, I have been noticing this trend of not making it to the West Coast since model runs back on 9 December, 4 days ago. We are expecting a significant storm system Sunday, the 17th of December, and Monday, 18th December. Timing is definitely going to change, the details of the timing between now and then, but this is a general period of time to look at. It looks to be a mainly rain event with the absence of any cold air, just a lot of wind and rain. GFS and European models are showing a more inland storm track with that system Sunday, Monday. And if the further west this thing gets, the warmer and moister the air mass is going to become with stronger southeasterly winds, even stronger southerly winds potentially along the immediate coastal sections of the mid-Atlantic. This is going to allow temps to become much more milder if we have a more westward track with this particular storm system. And the bottom line here, folks, is wind direction is everything when it comes to winter temps. We do see colder temps kind of moving in behind that departing storm system on Tuesday, the 19th of December. You'll be listening to your Christmas music, and you'll actually have that nice nip in the air again, feeling like the holiday season. A more up and down temperature pattern is most likely to happen late next week between the 20th and the 22nd of December. Again, it's just not looking like a major torch fest at this point in time, but we will see milder temps at times too. So kind of like the up and down type temperature trend across the mid-Atlantic. Cold, then warm, a little bit milder, then cold again. Watch the PNA closely for more positive tendencies. I'm keeping a close eye on that. With rising heights across Western Canada just after the Christmas holiday, that last week of Christmas leading up to New Year, I'm keeping a close tab on that. The stronger the PNA gets, the greater the potential for a digging trough east of that, the ridge axis over across the eastern U.S., the troughing into the eastern U.S. The MJO is teasing us. On the verge of moving into phase 8. Oh, so close, 26, 27 December. But you're teasing us, MJO. We want cold and snow in the east. We need to have the MJO quit teasing us and move into phases 8 and 1. But right now, it's currently teetering on that border of 8-1 and the null phase. The stratospheric polar vortex is forecast to move into Europe by late December. That is not a good thing if we want colder temps from the stratospheric polar vortex being weakened. That would not be a good thing. So we'll continue to watch this. It's a very highly fluid and dynamic situation. It changes from run to run and day to day. There is further vortex weakening possible by early January, by the way, so we'll keep an eye on that. The ensemble models are looking more favorable still for stormy conditions the last week of December and early January. But here's the bottom line million-dollar question. Will there be enough cold air in place? So we really need some of these teleconnections and we need them to shake things up a little bit to where we can get some colder shots in the eastern U.S. There's been hints at times on modeling, and then those hints go away. So I'm looking for more trends and more consistency in the trends. So maybe we get more stormy the last week of December through New Year's and early January, but really the bottom line is will there be enough cold air in place across the mid-Atlantic to really reel in a nice winter storm? European model is showing more eastern troughing in late December, has trended colder over the past 24 hours, but will it stick? Will it stay that way? There's been a lot of model chaos, a lot of model inconsistencies, specifically with operational runs. And then the longer range European, the C3S, as well as the CFS models are still indicating a more favorable wintry weather pattern in January and even into early February. So, again, the Pacific Jet, it is like public enemy number one. It's our winter weather villain a lot of times. That and a stronger polar vortex, I would say, would be public enemy 2. But we really need some things to start going the right direction, teleconnection-wise, to really start getting some of that colder air from Siberia across to the North American continent and down to the US. And again, Europeans still sticking to its guns. C3S is sticking to its guns. CFS changes its mind more than a toddler's temperament changes. Yeah, CFS, I throw it in here, but I always have a very cautious approach with CFS because it changes so frequently back and forth. But the European and C3S, hey folks, still looking like a good winner towards the end, late portion of winter. All right, that wraps up my video this evening. I hope you enjoyed it. My voice is about to completely go out on me. I'm going to drink a glass of water, and I really hope you enjoy these videos. I really have a passion for the weather. I love to share this information, what I've learned over the years with you. I definitely learn from my mistakes. I'm not perfect, and I know that I'm not right all the time. But I certainly do a lot of attention to these models, a lot of attention to these analogs, a lot of attention to these patterns, the pattern recognition, to really try to develop the best product for you here watching these videos, as well as following me on the Spot on Weather Weebly webpage. Feel free to take a look at that. A lot of great information on that website, Spot on Weather Weebly. Take a look. And by the way, I do a weekly newsletter. It's absolutely free. I'm not charging you a dime, a penny, nothing to watch these videos. And I'm not charging you a thing either to get my weather newsletters, my weekly newsletters, which I usually try to cut every Thursday. Sometimes things come up, personal stuff, family time, or events. But I definitely do my best to get a newsletter out every Thursday. So go to the Spot on Weather Weebly website. Do me a favor, go to that page and just sign up for the newsletter. And believe me, you're going to love what I share via that avenue. All right, that wraps things up. I'm hoping everybody's having a happy holiday season. We are getting close to the big day, Christmas. And don't let this mild weather dampen your holiday spirit. I know it's easy to do when you really want a white Christmas, but let's face it, white Christmases seem to become more of a thing of the past with each passing year as these global temperatures keep rising and rising and rising and rising, and these oceans grow warmer and warmer and warmer, yada, yada, yada. That's all I got for now, everybody. Until next time, take care and God bless everyone.